Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 8. And I've just watched it. And at first I was asking myself, what the am I watching? And then the episode grew up a little bit. So the rundown of this episode, I don't think I'm going to do my usual episode breakdown where I go through, everything that happens in this episode, because it's essentially a fairy tale episode. Okay, it's akin to episodes like the Q episode with the Robin Hood adventure, and it's got elements of the Next Gen episode, Imaginary Friend. And the other one I can think of is DS9's Our Man Bashir, the Voyager episode with, is it Captain Proton with Tom Paris? Elements from all of that. So again, with this episode, there's not a lot that's new in concept-wise and plot-wise. It's still derivative, but I found myself enjoying this a little bit more than I thought I would. And towards the end, I actually... the ending was so bittersweet that I actually felt some quite strong emotions over it. And then the episode kind of pulled it back a little bit, and I think its testicles shrunk slightly. I apologise for the crude analogy, but that's all I could think to say about that particular part. I will get to it. So the basic rundown is the Enterprise is in a nebula that's got this consciousness in it. It's a disembodied consciousness. Whether it developed there, pinged into existence, apparently, we don't find out. But there is a consciousness there. It's an episode that is centered around Mbenga and his daughter, and it brings a conclusion to that particular storyline in this show. The entity has detected Mbenga's daughter, Rukia. It's Rukia. Her name is Rukia. The entity pulls her out of the transporter, and the Enterprise crew are essentially meat puppets in this fantasy world, all except Mbenga and Hemmer. And they're the only ones that really know what's going on. So there's fantasy elements that play out through the episode. There's the princess played by the Belter. The Belter is a princess. I laughed pretty hard at that, and not in a sarcastic way. For once, I actually laughed because I found it funny. I don't want to see grumpy Belter with a chip on her shoulder. I want to see her having a bit more fun. But she's proven that she's capable of pulling more than this face. I found that quite refreshing. Anson Mount is able to have fun with his role as the coward, although I'm really beginning to think that the writers of Strange New Worlds don't actually like Pike. I'm beginning to think that Pike was the hook to bring people in. But so far this season, Pike has just been held hostage. Pike has been trapped in an ion storm. Pike has been pretty much the damsel in distress, and in this episode, he plays a fantasy coward. Spock is a wizard, and Ethan Peck just seems to play a deadpan character. He was very bland. He had a chance to sort of open up and play something kind of sinister. In all honesty, there was too much Spock in there for my liking. Uhura gets to play like this really nasty, evil queen. Ortegas gets to play a man. She's just really excited to be able to kill something. She's protecting the king, and the king is Mbenga. So those aspects of the episode, they were fun. Some of the characters were a little underused, I think, but for the most part, it was becoming entertaining more entertaining as the episode went on. And I think the cast really were able to let go a little bit of the stick up the backside. It's revealed later on in the episode that although Mbenga thought this was being drawn from his own memory, he realizes that it's being drawn from his daughter's memory, and his daughter has been taken out of the transporter. She's in his quarters. And that's where the episode takes a little bit of a more serious turn. The entity has become friends with Mbenga's daughter because the entity wanted to, allow her to experience something of a childhood. The entity doesn't understand that why Mbenga's doing what he's doing. kind of like the imaginary friend episode from the Next Generation. The entity's essentially cured Mbenga's daughter, but the cure is only valid in the nebula. So the entity offers a choice. The girl can stay and she can become a joint consciousness with that entity, or she can go with Mbenga, keep going into the transporter, or she'd pretty much die. She chooses to stay with this entity, and it's a really heartfelt goodbye between Mbenga and his daughter. And for a moment I thought, wow, okay, you, excuse me guys, but well done. That was quite a moving moment. The episode was a kind of fun, and then it took a bit of a shift in tone, and it kind of grew up a little bit, and it you know, not to be crude, but it presented its knackers to everyone and said, look at my big brass balls. And I was impressed for about 10 seconds. I was like, wow, okay, little tear in my eye. That was quite moving. And then someone burst their balloons, and it kind of deflated the whole thing, because Mbenga's daughter comes back almost instantaneously. She's all grown up, and she basically gives him the, you know, don't worry about me, you did the right thing, I'm all right, I'm having the time of my life here. And he's saying, I'm really confused, you know, how is this possible? You're all grown up. Time is different in that, you know, reality, that side of things. And then, yeah, she basically gives him a little bit of closure, but it's instantaneous. And I'm finding that a lot with younger generations. And for those of you who think I'm an insult, I'm not. I'm a father. I have children. I have a wife. And my kids, they love instant gratification. And aren't we all trying to get away from that instant gratification? And this episode gives you that, and I didn't like it. It essentially says, you made this big decision, this really heartfelt, difficult decision, without dealing with the gravitas of Mbenga making that decision and letting his daughter go, and then spending some time, some serious time, contemplating that decision, which is where I think this should have gone. He shouldn't have had resolution straight away. I thought it cheapened the moment. I thought it cheapened what he could have potentially gone through. I know he's been through a lot, but I would have liked to have seen him live with that decision for a bit without knowing whether or not she was okay. That would have been a much more ballsy move. But unfortunately, yeah, they basically say it's okay, everything's fine. They give him that closure. I don't think we get that kind of closure that quickly, knowing that we've made the right decision. The turmoil of not knowing whether the decision we've made is right, that I think is real storytelling. So it was a great climax to the episode, but it let itself down afterwards. The episode closes with the revelation that the crew didn't actually know what they were doing. They've essentially lost 5 hours. They didn't remember. It was only Hema and Mbenga that knew what had happened, and even Hema doesn't remember. Hema's the vessel to the other entity, and yeah, he doesn't remember what happened. So my thoughts on this episode, the things that I liked, the things I didn't like. Okay, so the things that I liked were the conclusion up to the point where they essentially pulled their toe out of the water and deflated those big brass balls. I think it cheapened a potentially good moment in that episode. The actors were able to have some freedom to do what they do best, and that's act. You know, there were some poor performances, there were some great performances, there were some underused characters, there were some underused members of the Enterprise crew. Nurse Chapel, she's only used in I think 2 scenes, and her character is you know, doesn't really do much. I loved Noonien Singh in this persona, and it wasn't the dress. It wasn't the dress. It was. We saw a different side to the actress. She's able to portray more in this show than simply just Miss Hardnut Belter. At first, I found it eye-rolling, but I did warm up to it. Now, this is obviously a different kind of review than what I usually do. I don't do well in the heat. I'm fair-haired, so I don't do well in the heat. Yes, I do have a ginger beard. Secondly, I'm still having problems with my ear, so my energy is quite low. I do have a job. I work long hours. I do these YouTube videos whenever I get the chance, which is usually when I put time aside on a Thursday night. So I won't have time to do 2 videos tonight. It'll simply have to be 1. But what did I think to this episode? Well, I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 because it was really good. It wasn't without its flaws. They dressed the set of the Enterprise, and I see why they did it. I think it was to save a bit of cash by not having to build other sets. So they dressed the Enterprise in this very sort of Renaissance style kind of way. And I know why they did it, but I think it was interesting, but it kept the show kind of grounded. Again, it's pulling ideas from all over the Star Trek universe, okay, all over the Star Trek franchise. It's been done before. I've referenced the episodes that it pulls from. In previous ways, it made me kind of angry. And it still does, but I'm having to, like so many other people, having to come to terms with the fact that the people who write this show, they can only build on what is already there. They can't write original stories. I get it's becoming increasingly harder to do, but my position on that still stands. I enjoyed this episode towards the end. I didn't enjoy the beginning. The opening of this episode was a little bit too campy, but you got into it. So yeah, a 7 out of 10 for me on this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed this review. I apologise for my low energy. I'm working extremely long hours and I'm doing YouTube as well. It's why you only see roughly 2 videos from me a week, because I just simply don't have the time with work, family, the whole shebang. So I do thank you for your patience. I thank you for your comments. Okay, I'm getting a lot of comments on my videos. I'm really enjoying doing what I do, and I'm enjoying the discussion. My only wish from people in the comments section is to be respectful of one another. Keep the conversation going. New Trek has got its major flaws, in my opinion, and I generally don't like where it's gone. Strange New Worlds has had some massive ups and downs. The things I've been pointing out in my videos, just my opinions. Feel free to leave a comment. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. That would really make my day. And I will be back with the Orville. Episode 4 already. Crikey, time's flying. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you are all okay. Please look after each other, look after yourselves, and until the next time, it's bye-bye from me. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
I need the silence, stop the violence of the war in my head. Time's the healer, the eraser of all done and said. And as I fall back to my shelter, I know I'll only